You guys hear us?
Yes,
Yeah.
getcha.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay, I was thinking of somebody else. Yeah. All right, 10:01. And today is April 16th. This meeting is a joint meeting with the advisory board, and the select board is called to order at this time. We really have one item on this agenda, and that is to speak to the FY 25 operating budget. So, and I'll kind of start this off. We had a, after action review meeting, a week ago. And, you know, there was a discussion at this table regarding the urgency to try to do something. And, you know, quite frankly, we've been faced with this issue for a long time. And when we got started on this budget, which would have been back in August, as we worked through it, we decided that we were going to hold the vote for the budget, just the budget, separate from the annual election. And at that time, I was looking to have that vote in March, and it ended up being in April. It's okay, great. We certainly worked in lockstep with the town of Groton throughout this entire process. And the engineering, the design behind having the vote in March was to afford us an opportunity to rebound with a second vote. And some of the discussions that we had last week, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Some of the discussions that we had last week was really focused around listening to what the voters have said. And just as a reference, you know, Groton's vote failed by almost 2-1, which is just resounding to say the least. And here we are faced with significant financial doom on the municipal side here in Dunstable. And so I want to be careful here to not use the terminology revote, because it's our intention to not revote the override from the failed attempt, but rather to look at a number that supports the municipal side. And though, you know, a lot of us here in this room and the ones that are remote understand clearly that we have been in a really difficult spot for a long time. And I know there was some discussion from at the table last week about, well, you know, we listened to the voter and let's act on that. The trouble in my mind, after thinking this through, is that if we do that, if we follow that path, we're going to cause ourselves some problems. And the first one is we're not going to have the money to manage the municipal side. We're going to have police officers out at night by themselves. We're going to have firefighters that are going to be working in the fire station by themselves, and in some cases not able to respond to calls. And the overall financial health of the town is not good. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Moody's is going to come in sometime in August, and they're going to reevaluate the town's credit, and we could potentially lose our credit rating. Our credit rating could slip. There was a management report done a number of years ago that told us very clearly from the state, DOR, DLS, stop using free cash and do what you can to reinvest in your stabilization account. I don't believe that stabilization account has had any money put into it for at least 10 years. It's at $300,000, I think, is roughly, right? What's in that?
Slightly shy of 350.
Yeah.
348 or something like that.
And that is just a bad number to have. So here we are. revisiting this discussion again, and it's my interest to, and I guess I'm using the word my interest because I don't know where everybody else feels about it. I want to do the right thing. I want to do the thing that's collectively decided by all the boards. But it's certainly in the interest of the town, and it's certainly something that I've been thinking about a lot, is to vote and override strictly to support the municipal side of the town. Now, why am I saying that? Some of us that are at these tables, we've gone to Groton Center, Groton Town Hall, school district meetings, we've had hearings here. And you know, the one thing that you hear on a repetitive basis from the voters is that they don't want to put any more money into the school system. And that's really what this comes down to. When you heard all of the discussion that happened at the Groton Center, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago at night, everyone that came up to speak spoke about the school district. You didn't hear, you know, you guys got to stop buying new trucks. You got to find a cheaper place to buy sand and salt. We didn't hear any of that. We didn't hear any of that at all. And so my interest here is to carve out from the override what a municipal override would look like and vote that in the upcoming May town election so that we can get the town on some sort of a stable financial footing. And, you know, I've spent, I don't know, countless hours thinking this through a little bit, and my heart and my mind says to me, you know, even though we got whacked, and I hear you, and believe me, I sat at the table and saw that ticket when it got emailed to me, and you know, I was like, what planet am I on? Where am I? Because the voter turnout was so significant that I was actually thought that we would see that override pass. The entire override, in terms of all of the data, all of the presentations, the level of information, the sophistication of information here in Dunstable, we've never had it to this extent. And we owe that to Jason and Sue. Because when we've done this in the past, quite frankly, we did it on an Excel spreadsheet and did not have any of the statistics or any of stuff like this report that was put together. We didn't have any of that. And so with that being said, I'm going to open it up for discussion at this point regarding not specifically a dollar amount, but regarding going for an override vote that is going to be strictly to support the town of Dunstable's municipal side. That's why we're all here at this point. That's the only item on the agenda. So open for discussion, folks.
Ron, I appreciate that that discussion there, just to at least to open things up to start the process. And I will say that I'm speaking for myself because based upon the polling, you know, kind of did with the advisory board, it was split right down the middle. 3 thought they would listen to an idea of another override, and 3 were, I would say, against an additional vote in the override. And I have to sort of go back to what you mentioned previously. There was that we provided an unprecedented amount of information and documentation that would provide all of our voters the opportunity to fully understand what we were moving forward, what we were doing with this override, and the needs that existed both within the town and within the school district. So we gave them all the information they could possibly need to be able to digest in every single way or form. So to try to get the information to everyone, we held more meetings than we probably have in the town's history to try to get the information out to there. We even appealed to our state representatives in order to be able to do so. And we, I guess, for twice in a row now, we've been told that the town is not interested in this override. Once we asked for a municipal budget and a municipal override, and that was rejected. And then we combined it with the school because the need was on both sides there, and that was rejected. I understand the perspective that we want to support our community, and I agree with that. It's just that, 13 or 14 months ago, we asked the community to support our firefighters and our police officers in town, and they told us no. It was close, but they told us no. And we did that again here just a month or so ago here, and we have the same situation. It's an unfortunate situation that we're dealing with, that we have to deal with, and it's not something that myself personally that I want to have happen. But I don't know how many more times we can ask the same question and expect a different result. And I don't know if you had the opportunity, or if anyone in the room here has had the opportunity to watch the most recent school board meeting. I would recommend that as as almost like a homework or a required watch. But I can tell you that any sort of goodwill or effort that we would put forward, that we have put forward to this point, to try to develop or harbor a good relationship there with Groton and with the school district. If we were to basically tell the school district to, yep, now that you've sliced and diced your budget, now we're going to pay for our side of things. Outside of that, I think would not be met very well, and we would end up in a situation where we would that would be even less desirable than we are right now. It was a challenging watch from that perspective, but I think that we do have a partner community in this, and they were, they had a tough time looking in the mirror. I will say that I don't think there were very many people from Groton that recalled that they denied their override as well, but they did look towards our community and that of where we stood with our overrides and how we've lost a couple in a row now. And I don't know that it's worth the time, energy, and effort. I feel like our voters have told us what we need to know. And I know that's a challenging thing, and nobody wants to head down that road. But they've told us we don't want to pay anymore, and it's definitely going to provide us a lot of challenges moving forward. But we have to try to figure out how we can live within our means. That's just my personal opinion there.
So let me just say this about that. I've done some legwork, and I know there's a town down the south coast, I think it's Plimpton, not Plymouth, Plimpton. Needed an override vote, and they voted the override 5 times before they got the yes. Not suggesting that that's what we should do here, but knowing what I know about the town's finances, that the messaging that we have is going to be, the town said no, and town hall will figure it out, so we're just gonna say no. And I don't think, I'm gonna tell you, Jake, this failed override was clearly a result of tagging it with the school district. And, I walked through that group a couple times that was sitting at town meeting and then the budget forum. And I purposely went and talked to some people that were sitting there who I didn't know who they were. And, that was the chatter that was going on, was that, hey, this is great, but we can't do that. And I'm gonna say that if we don't put an override vote out in the upcoming ballot, which is not gonna cost us anything, the ballot's going out and it's gonna have a question on it. So it isn't as though we're gonna run a special election and incur the cost of that. The messaging we're giving to the town is just like I said, I don't want to repeat it. The messaging is going to be just say no, and they're going to go figure it out, because that they always do. And you know what? Then we're going to apply that to next year and the year after that and the years going forward. And I just, in my heart and my mind says to me, and I've been doing this a while, says to me that we gotta put some money in the municipal kitty. And it's just not, without regard to the police and fire departments, which are going to be frontline in seeing how bad this is. We've got issues in town hall with salaries, people that are looking for, salary adjustments based on market rate. And the overall operating expenses of the town are stripping away our revenues quickly. And I think we're gonna be into a gloom and doom here with Moody's come August or September, when the town's credit rating is, which I think it's this year, it's gonna get reevaluated, and if it ain't this year, it's next year. So, you know, this vote isn't, like I said, it's not costing us anything. I've listened to it, Jake, I've listened to you. Eric and Billy Farrell are here. And their groups are most impacted by this thing, significantly so. And, you know, if nothing else, we owe it to them, I think, in my mind, to go after, you know, some money to put it in the municipal side so that we can have, 4 legs on the chair.
And I
since-
definitely understand that, Ron, wholeheartedly, that I don't want to see that, you know, that sort of level of, a lack of funding to the police and fire and to what we have going on in town. I definitely don't want to see that happen. But I feel like we're not being listened to, you know, and I'm actually, I can't find the right way to say that aside from we as the advisory and select boards they're not, the townspeople are not listening to us. They're not hearing that we're saying that we need this money. No matter how much we put out there and all the information and all the digestible bites that we have out there, they're just not paying attention. And until they see the results of voting against these overrides, I don't know that we're gonna gain much more support. And I know that doesn't sound right, but they have told us that they don't want us to increase their taxes, and I guess that's where I gotta let them feel it, I guess.
So if
The
I
other
could
thing,
interject.
the other thing I want to add is, I want to say, I'm the other member of the board that's against doing just a municipal only override. The reason for that is because for the first time, there's a couple of reasons. One is, for the very first time that I can remember, the school and the town of Groton said to us, how much can you afford? Usually it's, how much can Groton afford? Okay, Dunstable, you need to figure it out. They didn't do that this year. They're taking the hit. And part of the reason why they haven't had to do that in the past is because Groton would fail the override, we would pass it, and we could actually give them what they needed to fund it. Only because we actually had the override, and the override on us passed. We had to give them less than what we passed, which was great for us. But it shows that we're in this together, because the only way we're gonna get out of it is if we work together. And if you didn't see the school committee meeting, I would suggest that you watch it. And I would suggest that you have a few drinks while you're watching it, because you're gonna need it. Because I can tell you, I was completely enraged watching it. Because the topic was Dunstable isn't paying up.
Yeah.
Now, with that in mind, I think the last 2 years, the voters here have told us no. And I think the only way we can get out of this is if we work together. We are a regional school district, whether we like it or not. We're in it for the long haul. I feel like we have some goodwill between the towns for the first time, where I actually feel like we actually have a spot at the table. I think Mark and Dr. Chesson both spoke at the meeting the other day in favor of, in support of us, in support of our town and the fiscal situation that we're in. I personally know that 12 months from now, we're gonna be asking for another override.
Right.
I know that. And I think if we take the hit this year, we have a much better chance of it passing next year, rather than go and asking for another municipal override. We also have a new superintendent coming into town. I would like to see some of the work that can be done with him. The Tri-Town Committee will continue to work together, I hope. And it will be, you know, kind of an approach, based on the 3 towns working together. I don't disagree with any of the statements that you made, Ron, but I think that we need to take the hit this year and show people that we are in dire straits. This is the result of them not passing the override. And I think by going just for municipal override, we are gonna ruin any goodwill we have right now between the towns.
Yeah, but this is Rob. Do you mind if I jump in?
Go ahead.
So feedback in
Can we let Karen?
line with. Go
Rob,
ahead,
hang on.
Karen.
I can't,
So
Karen-
Karen, Rob, and then Lacey.
okay, okay, Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, so my only point was, I think Jake said, we're not being listened to. I think it's kind of the adverse where the residents are telling us what they want and expect of our boards and the work that we volunteer and we do. And at the end of the day, it's the same bucket of money. Whether it's, 60% to the schools or 40% to the town, whatever it is, it's always the same bucket of money. And I don't think we can lose sight of that the residents have shared with us in overwhelming, succinctly 2 years in a row here now. They do not wish their taxes to go up. And if you look 3 years ago, they were frustrated when we went back and looked for a second vote to be told, redo the capital. So I think it's really on us and our role as leaders and volunteers within the community to take our medicine here and actually listen to what residents are telling us. So again, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm not an advocate for asking for another override just to do it again next year. Like that's not a plan. That's reactionary. And like we all worked very hard with the schools, with the towns to try to come up with a plan this past year, and it didn't work. And we were overwhelmingly told by the residents that it wasn't what they wanted. So we have to step back and listen to what the residents are telling us. I think it's disingenuous to go back and vote for another override. It just isn't a plan.
So I'll share my feedback to Jake, and I think in line with a lot of what I've heard here has been if we seek an itemized list. Let me first step back a second. I believe the number is 44% voted yes for the full override. Is that roughly correct? I was looking at the unofficial numbers, right? 44% said yes to everything. If we go back for a municipal only, my feedback to Jake and feedback for everyone here is if we itemize, it would be fairest in my opinion to also have an itemized list from the school side. So again, if 44% of the town said yes to everything, I don't know enough about whether, the majority is saying yes to the municipal side, the majority is, saying, I know the municipal amount was less than the school amount, but are there elements of the school that everyone is, or the majority is aligned to? I think it's, if we seek to go back, I would ask that it's itemized on both the town side and on the school side.
But I think the plan is that if we go back, it's just going to be the town and not the school district. They're not part of this
Yeah,
override.
no, I hear that. I'm recommending it be different.
Yeah. Okay, Lacey?
Okay, thank you. So I'm listening to everything, and honestly, I mean, I hear you, Ron. The results of the override were absolutely, I mean, I was shocked, to say the least, and I think it was very, very disheartening and upsetting on a number of different levels. I mean, obviously for the school side, but the municipal side as well. I mean, the emotional side of me says, yeah, like let's do it because I want our police and fire to be well staffed and to feel like they have everything that they need. But I also know, I mean, I've been a part of the conversations this year. And I want to thank, everybody from the town of Dunstable for partnering with the school district and with Groton. The one thing that I feel like has come out of this that has been positive is what Matt was saying. I think that we have really built up some goodwill all around. And I think that we have established maybe like a model for working together going forward, that it didn't turn out the way we wanted it to this year, but maybe this is naive, but I am optimistic that going forward, I think if, you know, we kind of stay the course, it will ultimately yield positive results for the town of Dunstable and the school district as well. I think that the school district is, as everybody knows, taking a tremendous hit this year. And as difficult as that is, we're prepared to do that. I think we are all sort of on the same page that 12 months from now, we are going to need to do this again. And I think that if we were to go back now and do a municipal override only, I think that that reinforces in the voters' mind that they don't have to say yes. I mean, all the work that we all did to kind of establish, you know, the numbers, the budgets that we all put together, it almost seems like the voters are looking at it like a negotiation. Well, okay, no, we're going to say no the first time, and then they're going to come back to us with a smaller number, and then maybe we'll say yes that time. And in my opinion, and I'm just speaking for myself, I don't think that that is a good way to go about it. And I think that when we do the work and we put together numbers to present to the voters, like they need to be able to trust that this is the real number, that we are telling you what we need, and you can say yes or you can say no, but this is when you're voting on it. We're not coming back again and again. And you know, as Karen pointed out, I was guilty 2 years ago of asking this board to go back and revote the capital. And you know, if you guys did that, and I was very appreciative of that, but I think that I was looking at it only in a vacuum for that year, what we needed, and I wasn't looking ahead long term, and that was a mistake, and I'll own that mistake. And if you were to ask me again now, should I have done that, I would say no, because I think that the voters have to have a level of confidence that what we are asking for is what we truly need, and they need to take that seriously. But again, I'll close by saying that, you know, I know that, you know, many people in the room are probably looking at me as only advocating for the schools, and I want everyone to understand that that is not the case. I care about our community as a whole, and I'm looking at this as this is our whole budget. It is one bucket of money, as Kieran said. So I just think that logistically, I think that this is I would not be in favor of going back for a second municipal override only, but it is not because I don't care about the municipal side. I'm just thinking ahead towards the future.
I want to, thanks, Lacey. I want to jump back in and just, you know, for what it's worth, I've had multiple residents approach me before the prior vote and say, you know, they're hoping to see more of a middle ground. So I've had, like I said, direct feedback from residents saying it's too much. I hope that there is middle ground. So I do think that there is, you know, some appetite and reasonableness from residents. Now, whether that's the, you know, representative of everyone in town, I couldn't tell you. Just wanted to share that, you know, I've had that feedback. So I think that, you know, it might not be received poorly if we
That middle
were to
ground-
seek it.
Sorry.
Yeah, so you know, some override, but not as much as we asked. Now,
Right.
That middle ground could be found next year. You know, you let this year go through with what the voters have asked for. We let the schools sort of get their budget in check and see, and we carry forward with what the situation that we're going to be in, which we voted on that option 2, a combination of option 3 that is going to essentially keep us at a level fund. So that give us a year to work with this and find that middle ground next year. I mean, I haven't voiced my opinion yet, but I have to agree with everybody that has spoken. I don't think this is the time to go back. It is one budget. Picking and choosing which ones we fund and which one we don't, that micromanagement of a budget over one pool of money is tedious, and it just creates bad blood between departments. The progress we've made with the school, again, you know, to your point, Matt, where, you know, Dunstable, what can you afford is a question we have not heard, not in my 8.5 years of being on this board. So that to me is significant. So other than beating a dead horse, that's
The only thing I want to add too is that Groton has tried doing going back and getting a second override before, it doesn't work for them. And like I said, I think if we do that, and I think someone else said it too, and I just want to reiterate it, we're sending a message that the first offer is just a negotiation. And to me, it's like, this is what we offered you. If you don't like it, then you can turn it down. But, to me, it's like we need to not set the precedence that we're gonna keep asking.
Yeah,
Well,
because the first one's not real.
yeah, we're gonna keep asking.
But I would rather
And-
do it a year from now.
And you're gonna get at the risk with that is the messaging that we've sent out is that we didn't really need the money, we just asked anyway. And if, I'm gonna tell you that based on from what and I know there's a lot of acrimoniousness going on with the school committee over this. If you come back next spring in the spring election, and you ask for another override and the district is tied into it, you're gonna get the same answer. You're gonna get no, because people are gonna say, we've always said no, let's just keep saying no and they'll figure it out. That is, in my opinion, the risk, and that is the messaging that we're pushing out. But it's like I said, when I opened my remarks, if the group feels cohesively that it's more advantageous to not do it, and I haven't heard anything significantly that would cause me to believe that we're gonna have a different approach. I've got fear in me that this isn't gonna pass next year, and at that point, the library's gonna get closed and all this gloom and doom stuff. And sure, if that's what we're gonna do, and our credit rating is gonna drop to a B or worse, all right? If that's our approach, and if that's what has to happen, the wheels need to fall off the wagon before we fix it. And the group collectively decides that, I will accept that and go along with it. But I'm telling you, I've been doing this a while, there's a caution here that I don't believe that that's what we should be doing, but I hear everybody and that's great, but I did want to get together this morning and talk about that. Nikki?
I just wanted to make a point of clarification. I watched that school committee meeting, I think 4 times now. And, it's 2 of the members, 2 Groton members who are running for office, who have played an unfortunate role often at many of the forums that all of you have participated in. Every other member on that school committee who's voting was for going forward together. And I think that's significant. That's a much larger amount, even if they propose the deregionalizing, which is a joke anyway, but just if those 2 did that, they wouldn't get the votes they needed to support it. And clearly, Dr. Chesson also played a significantly important role in guiding that away and bringing us back to this concept of we're in this together. I think, and this is my personal opinion, not just one voter, I think a lot of what we're saying is anecdotal. Some people talk to some people talk to somebody else,
Right.
whatever. It's not enough to convince me that the people who voted against really understood what they were voting against. And sometimes you have to find out what the consequence is, this will be the consequence. And after that happens, you might have more support in going forward. But I personally agree with, it's all on the same pot. It's all on the same pot, and the school is going to suffer as much as the municipal is, just differently.
Agreed.
And this might be my limited understanding. I think that in terms of job stability, I believe that the school is going to suffer far worse. So it's, the historical.
In one hit. I mean, we have been making cuts to our budget.
We're talking on the municipal
Years.
side too.
Right.
No, I know. I understand.
Years.
I understand.
That was one of the things
I
that
get it.
Faith mentioned, was that they're taking a big hit. But my argument is we've been taking a hit for 5 years.
So longer than that.
So what, you're right. There was a statement in there where it said we weren't gonna
In
suffer.
addition to the fact that we approved an override of $125,000 to fund the police officer on the night shift, which ultimately we ended up giving to the school system and asking the town to approve again, and it was rejected. So the comment that she made about us not actually taking a hit, I have a thing that tells you what we've been doing the last 5 years, and we have taken.
Kind of says, who's she?
Faye.
Yeah, she's way out. She needs to go find herself.
Well, the good news is there's someone running against the two that are the biggest, against, Dunstable. And the focus was Dunstable and the fact that, Dr. Chesson pointed out the fact that, Groton failed the override. They didn't pass it. Dunstable failed it too, but Groton didn't either. So
Right.
Both towns sent a message. It wasn't just one. And again, she also reiterated the fact that they were offering a grant. And there was a mention about, well, what's Dunstable gonna offer us? And we're not offering them anything. And Dr. Chesson reiterated the fact that that is normal in a regional school district, that a town would offer a grant to help with funds when they were needed. So in this district it is odd, because there's always this like, well, Groton does this, then what's Dunstable gonna offer us? But it's not like that in all regional school districts.
No, and we've never been, because of the lopsidedness of the size of the two towns, we're not in that position. And although I will tell you, Groton has got their own problems, and they are very significant. And how they navigate through that, I don't know, but this acrimoniousness with a couple of these members on this board is really, those two folks are way out of focus. And what's the Groton Dunstable's logo? Together we're better, or?
The profit of the field is.
No, that's Dunstable's. I'm talking about Groton. Groton Dunstable School District has
Together for something.
Yeah, they need to learn that. And I hope they're watching this today to get that, to hear that message, because it's unfortunate. I've listened to some of it from other people, and I'm not gonna watch the school committee meeting because I don't want to watch it, but neither here nor there. Anybody else? Chief?
Obviously, in support of an override, right? That's gonna restore 90% in the community department. But I just don't want to see us get into a situation like we were in last year, where we build a position and then I pay for the Grove Police Academy and all the other stuff that comes with that. And then the following year, he's gone. So if we're gonna do it, is there stability that person, that position is still gonna be there several years from now? Because it costs a lot and it takes a lot to train that officer. And I just don't want to train him and finally get him back in the police academy and pay for all that. And then get him out on the road and FTO him, and then have him for 3 months or 4 months on the road filming the position. And then all of a sudden, next year, you're gone. It's a lot of work. And I think it will actually be worse for morale for the police department than not getting that position back. Because it just shows the consistent of the non-stability and that, whatever we're going to move forward.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, having that, it's stressful for you, it's stressful for the department, same thing with the fire department. I mean, we need to be able to let the school take their hits, we take our hits, we get ourselves, we need to be able to build our budget so that these positions are not in jeopardy every year, every other year. We need to have your staff come full. We need your
And
staff
stable.
to be full and stable. And if going through this year where the school makes their reductions to the budget so that they can come back to us with a lower assessment, is going to allow us to readjust, I think, a little bit better. And we'll be in a better position to ask for the override that we really desperately need. Once people see that the school has done what they need to do to get it into a more sustainable number for us as a town. And then we can then start building back. I mean, that's what I'm hoping
Yeah,
to get.
I mean, that's what that was my main problem with it. It seems like a temporary kind of 1 year plug in a hole
Yeah.
that doesn't address the larger structural issues of this budget. And
Yeah.
next year, there's a good chance that position will be cut
Yeah,
next year because
yeah.
we haven't addressed the larger structural problem of this budget
Right.
by doing that. We've created ourselves a bigger problem.
And I want to add that there's no one at this table talking about the fact that we're unable to do what we both need. You know, and if I played the lottery, if I won it, I was gonna give it to you guys, but unfortunately I didn't win. But the.
You didn't play enough.
We're all
Exactly.
playing, we're all
But,
playing.
but I want, but I personally want a long-term strategy. And if we do an override, you know, in 2 weeks, it's not a long-term strategy. You know, and I feel like we need to develop one so that you're not in the situation where we're giving you money to do something and then, but we might be back next year and taking it back. And you've been here long enough to know that that's kind of what kind of happens sometimes. You know, with the work that Jason's doing with Mark, I really feel like we have some areas that we can actually kind of work together and fix those holes that we kind of had. That's all.
I need to be in North Reading in 15 minutes.
How are you gonna do that?
Sorry.
Do you have any
Yeah.
comments? Mr. Coolman? I do, not unless I wanna hear from you?
Yeah.
I do wanna hear from you.
No, I don't wanna repeat what everyone said. I think at the last meeting, I made my opinion known. I think the budget needs a long-term fix, and I think if we go for a small override for FY 25, we still have a problem in 26 and 27. And it's not a small one, it's a sizable one based on the projections from the schools, so. If we know we're gonna have to go back next year anyway, we know we're going to, if the school projections hold. I think we can do things this year without an override that will be painful, and I wish we didn't have to do. But I also think will put us in better financial position next year to deal with some of the issues. We won't be, again, if the school numbers hold, we're not gonna be able to fund it entirely. But we will be using less free cash in 25 than we have been, that we needed for this year. Meaning we will likely have more to carry over in future years, which will likely mean that we are able to invest in our reserves, in the future if we plan properly and accordingly. I think it's very difficult to do an override for just one side of the budget. You know, I know a lot of people, I heard a lot of people also say, you know, the school growth was unsustainable and too much, but I also think a lot of parents came out and voted for the override. And so, you know, I think there's a balance there. I think some people feel one way, but I also think others feel differently. So, I think that's important to keep in mind. If we are just to go to a municipal override and we want to actually do a municipal override, it should be multi-year. And if you do a multi-year override for municipal, you have to tie it to a growth number for the schools. That's just the way, that's the only way to do it that I know of. And if you were to do it, you gotta hold them to the number. And we don't have sufficient control to do that, to be honest.
Right.
So it's really hard to do that. And then I'll just say, I don't want to diminish the importance of having a positive working relationship with the town of Groton and the school district. I think it's really important for us. And I think over the last year, we've done a lot of work on that and made a lot of progress. It's definitely not where we want it to be entirely, but it's way better. I mean, way better than it was when I first got here. And even, I have to admit, even talking about some of the school committee members, I kind of cringe sometimes, because we need to work with them. And they can say whatever they want, but we need to be able to work with them. And so my opinion is let them say what they're gonna say, and we need to stay on track and be positive and work with them regardless of what they say about us, to be honest. Because that's what's good for the town and what's good for the school district. And we're fortunate to have, you know, strong representation on the school committee, that has been very helpful, especially recently, I'd say. So, that's kind of that's where I'm at, as hard as it is to not fund known needs that we have on the town side. I think we have to kind of take the long game, and knowing that we're likely to have to go back next fiscal year. Even if we were to get a municipal override for 25, I think the long game is not going for an override this year.
Okay. Anybody with anything else? I think, no one has a question.
Yeah, I'll jump in and I'll jump in with one last remark. You know, I think we're looking at and you know, just I'll share. I think I was a proponent along with everyone else that I could see is getting the full override passed. I think from a municipal standpoint, it's important, you know, fire safety and having a night, you know, second night shift, again, for safety and response time. These are important. I fully acknowledge the challenge with, you know, longevity, you know, who will take a role if it might be on the chopping block the next budget cycle. What I recall seeing in one of the meetings on the school side is it was about a 4 to 5 year recovery time if teachers lose their job. So I just want to remind everyone that of what I saw on the school side. If there is cuts, I don't expect those to come back for another 4 years.
Right. That would be true. Would be true.
But there's also a new superintendent coming in, so yeah, who knows?
There is, and you don't know which, you're right, absolutely, and you gotta just leave that and let that seek its own level, for lack of a better expression. The guy could be eminently successful or not. I really don't know.
Well, we know for sure it'll be one of those two wrong, so that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's his MO. He works with all the town committees, all the unions, all the teachers. He's really collaborative. I think we really need to have a lot of confidence in that.
He's also coming in at a very pivotal time where he's seeing where the school is at and what it's going to be before it's even started. So he's experiencing the sentiment immediately.
There is one more question. Jeff Rosen has his hand up.
Jeff,
Hi, can you guys hear me?
we can.
Awesome. This is a quick one. I agree with everyone, what you're saying. I haven't been doing municipal stuff nearly as long as anyone else in this room, and your points are all well taken. My only thought is there any long-term repercussions of not doing an override this year? Last time at the last meeting, the advisory board floated like we may need to sell the library. If that's at risk, if there's a long-term repercussion of not doing something like losing a municipal building, you know,
Not
in this particular, not at this particular time. The only risk, long-term implications, is if the town's credit rating were to slip. I mean,
do you know that is happening?
they're gonna, well, they didn't bring it with me, but, you know, the last write-up management letter that we had was from the state that said the town's not been able to pass an override, and, you know, our stabilization fund and the use of free cash, and that is detrimental to our credit rating. Are they gonna come in and do that? I don't really know. Did we just get
I mean,
evaluated?
that's half the Commonwealth right now. So like,
Pretty much.
like what,
all right, well,
if they're gonna start nailing people for credit ratings, the state has bigger problems than that right now.
the main point of my question was I was concerned about losing a municipal building, but if that's not the case with no override, then I'm okay. I support everything the boards are saying then. Thank you,
I
everyone.
think that'd be next year. That's the next year reaction in the event
All
that
right,
the budget's
so we'll batten down the hatches.
Quick comment. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, good. You know, we got to get back to, you know, I know nobody wants to hear it. We got to get back to our, you know, 3-4% increases. Okay, these, you know, huge budget increases are just not gonna fly. Okay, so, I think that's what we have to be thinking about. And, I think Jason has stated that, Dunstable could afford, a 3 or 4% increase. But, we just can't afford these outrageous increases. And, whatever has to be done on the school side to get that in line, has to be done. If we can't afford all the bells and whistles, then so be it. I guess
Yeah,
that's-
I don't think anybody would disagree with that. There's still a significant amount of work the school district needs to put in place to get their finances lined up and get their operation cost effective and efficient, so. But that'll be for a discussion at some point. Anybody or anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Do you have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Thanks for coming, everyone. I think we've sufficiently vetted this.
Can I
Yep.
Adios.
Alrighty then. Have a good day.
See you guys.
We leave. Leave. Or maybe we already left. I don't know.